Before we go too far with this video, I want to put something on the screen here. This is the Act of Settlement 1701. And the highlighted piece of text there provides a very important protection for the state to ensure that we do not have individuals from outside being allowed to be put into positions of governance, positions of authority. That particular line or that particular piece of legislation has been willfully subverted by, you could call it the introduction of later later laws. And I always talk about the British Nationality Act 1948, 1981. And it's all tied into the Representation of the People's Act and various other things as well. It's a situation that's been allowed to get out of control, and then we end up with people in Parliament that quite simply shouldn't be there. Parts of our culture being eroded, which have no place being eroded, and the rot continues. Now, I want to pull this up here. There's a couple of examples of what's going on. And we got Muslim MP Iqbal Mohammed cries in the British Parliament saying cousin marriage is part of his culture and banning it would be Islamophobic. Cousin marriage should be banned. This is, you know, what the person said here. If you want to marry your cousin, go and live somewhere else. That's what they're saying. Now let's have a listen.
There are documented health risks with first cousin marriage, and I agree this is an issue. This is an issue that needs greater awareness on. Virginity testing, forced marriages, and the freedom of women must be forced marriage must be prevented, and the freedom of women must be protected at all times. However, the way to redress this is not to empower the state to ban adults from marrying each other, not least because I don't think it would be effective or enforceable. Instead, the matter needs to be approached as a health awareness issue and a cultural issue where women are being forced against their will to undergo marriage. In doing so, it is important to recognize for many people this is a highly sensitive issue, and in discussing it, we should try to step into the shoes of those who perhaps are not from the same culture as ours, to better understand why the practice continues to be so widespread. An estimated 35 to 50% of all sub-Saharan African populations either prefer or accept cousin marriages, and it is extremely common in the Middle East and in South Asia. The reason the practice is so common is that ordinary people see family intermarriage overall as something that is very positive, something that helps build family bonds and helps put families on a more secure financial foothold. However, as is well documented, it is not without health risks for the children of those relationships, some of whom will be born out of wedlock. Instead of stigmatizing those who are in cousin marriages or those inclined to be, a much more positive approach would be to facilitate advanced genetic test screening for prospective married couples, as is the case in all Arab countries in the Persian Gulf, and more generally to run health education programs targeting those communities where the practice is most common. I would therefore urge the House to vote against this motion and to find a more positive approach to addressing the issues that are caused by first cousin marriages, including the health risks and the consequences of modern conflicts and displacement of population around the world. Thank you.
At the end of the day, this ties into some of the stuff Rupert Lowe's saying. You know, this is, let's say, Britain, the British Isles, England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland. We have our own culture, our own ways of doing things, our own lives, our own existence. That is what we are. And one thing that's very alien to us, in fact, I would call it unacceptable to a large degree, is what that MP was talking about within the House. And this is the problem, isn't it? You know, when you come to this country, no matter what way you come to this country, there are certain things that should happen with regard to their ability or their willingness to integrate with the society which they're entering. And what was being described there is just not something that's conducive with our way of doing things. It just isn't. I'm sorry, but that is a hard fact. And to ask for state intervention effectively with regard to testing, genetics, and all the rest of it, that's not our problem. That's the way I see it in any case. You know, I'm very much, if you want to do certain things, if you want to, you know, behave in such a way according to your own culture or your own beliefs, you do it behind closed doors in your own home. But you must respect the laws and customs of where you are at the same time. And if you find that that is not going to happen where you are, then the only alternative you have is to leave. You can't expect a culture with 1,000 years of history to totally and utterly adapt all of a sudden overnight. And that is what is happening in this case and a lot of others. Branching away from that, I want to show you this one. This is from Restore Edinburgh. There are too many white teachers in Scotland. This is according to the leader of Scottish Labour, Anas Sawar. He said this in what is regarded as one of the most vile and racist speeches in Scottish history. I don't know how the Scots are putting up with this, to be honest, but let's have a listen.
Every chief executive of every council and every government department, white. Every director of a department in Scotland, white. Every principal of a college or university in Scotland, white. Every head teacher in Scotland, white. Every chair of a public sector body in Scotland, white. Every High Court judge in Scotland, white. Every present governor in Scotland, white. Every editor of a news organisation in Scotland, white. Why? Every chief executive of every...
You're not white, are you? You know, this is the other problem. We've lost sight of one's ability to do the job. I don't care, to coin a phrase. If you can do the job, do the job. If you are in the job, do the job. Just because of this, you know, all this does is create an environment where you can call people ist, you can call people phobic, you can call people whatever you want to, because the state allows it. And when you get people like that standing up again, trying to change Scottish culture for the want of, you know, some other motive, again, it's unacceptable. Totally and utterly unacceptable. And he's trying to imply that because there's white people in positions, then it's racist. Well, complaining about it is equally so. And how dare you? That's the way I look at it. And again, I draw you back to the Act of Settlement, which I mentioned earlier on in this video, which has been willfully ignored. You wonder why. Let me know what you think in the comments. As always, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share my stuff. I'll talk to you soon. Toodaloo.